but what it means, those kind of things. We paid attention to that and what clinician can do. And I think I was also talking about the healing process. A healing process involves disclosure. People have to disclose how much, and all those details depends on the couple members and also the therapist team. And also, as part of the treatment is people often try to focus on that incident or that part of a couple life that infidelity happened. In the meantime, there was about, they had 20 years of marriage or 15 years of marriage. That happened only about maybe in a day or so, whatever, just small segment of the time. People focus on that. But again, a therapist expands the whole thing to the entire. So it's just one of the incidents among the many great things or wonderful things happen. So refocusing the couple members to get into those, because the people get locked in those small little moments or day or something like that. So that's kind of what we talked about. Now your questions, please, before we start.
So this is Akila.
Yeah, Akila. Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good morning. Good evening.
Yeah. This is about yeah. So basically, I had one question. You were saying about this empty shell marriages. I was wondering, is other kids they're normally affected by it?
Yeah. You mean the infidelity issues? Do the kids get affected with that? Is that the question? Yeah. Akila? Okay, I think I cannot hear her. So I think the way I understand the question is, do other kids get affected by what happens to the couple in terms of infidelity? Yes, there are two ways. One is if one of the couple members, one of the parents, discloses to children what happened. Your dad slept with who, or your dad whored around or prostitute or whatever. So direct disclosure by the hurt party or the victim of affairs, it has a terrible impact on the kids, depending on the age of the kids. Some kids don't understand it, but again, some parents, they don't use a lot of filters when they share age inappropriate information. So kind of direct disclosure will have an impact depending on how the disclosure happened and to what age group. The other one is indirect effect could be, suppose they don't disclose to the children what happened between the parents. Then even if they don't disclose it, the way they interact, I think one of the participants yesterday talked about, they went to church and they did some stuff there and then they started living, but again, they are cold to each other. They don't even talk to each other. So that kind of not having connection, dad and mom are not talking to each other. Dad and mom are not in any terms. They pass the information to the children. We call it detouring information. Then it will have an impact as well. So again, both the direct disclosure and indirect disclosure will have an impact. Often, what we tell people in the United States, I mean, in our treatment program, is that if you have an issue, definitely it's a good idea not to disclose this kind of information to the children. Sometimes parents use children as therapists. They go and disclose, they dump it on the children, and they feel better. But in the meantime, the child's relationship with the other parent gets affected, right? So it is a destructive pattern. It's like shooting your own children in that sense, because by talking bad about the other parent, or it may happen not about affairs. People may say nasty things about the other parent, but again, once in a great while. But again, if it does happen consistently, then it will have an impact on the child's relationship with the other parent. I know many cases where children don't even talk to the other parent because mother told or father told the kids that mom was a whore, mom was sleeping around. All those, what a terrible news it is for the child. And sometimes when people are upset, they exaggerate factors, and then those kind of things are really problematic. It destroys children's relationship with the other parent. That's what I would say, Akila. Does it make any sense, people? Okay. Sometimes members would talk about the partner to their family members, their professional community, just kind of, because they're so mad at the whole thing, they want to trash the other person. But then once it has happened, then it is very hard to change, or especially the good reputation, good name. So I think it's a matter of complexity in all kinds of ways. Any other question?
Sir, can I say something?
Sure,
If you
please.
don't mind, on the same thing.
Rajni,
I
yeah.
agree that you said you should not be telling the kids
Children.
as in so much in depth, but in today's, in our Indian context or wherever it is better to tell the children about it, maybe however you say it, rather than somebody else coming and telling them. I think it should be, parents should be, telling them
Yeah.
something at least about it. I
Yeah.
don't know whether it's,
Yeah.
I
I
mean, it
kind of,
should not come as a shock.
yeah, I sort of agree in a way, because again,
Yeah.
um, how does you're right. I mean, if it is better to tell kids directly than the kids hear about it from another source, outside source. I
Yeah,
agree with
yeah,
that. But the
yeah.
question is, even how does that other source get the information out?
So,
I mean,
we live in a close-knit society. Most of
mm,
the time, some
yeah,
XYZ does come to know about it. So,
mm,
I feel it's the approach of the parent is more important.
yeah,
Like you said, it
correct.
should not be
Yeah,
nasty.
yeah. Sometimes people say, you're right. I mean, it's up to absolutely, Rajni. These are the realities, right? I mean, people get to know this, and they may talk about it, and the kids get to know about it. That's kind of terrible thing for the kids, and especially kids' name in the society. Your father, oh yeah, he's like sleeping around. And that's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
terrible thing. You're right. Those are the realities. Um, the other reality is sometimes, for us here in the U.S. is that if they have the right to sue them in the U.S.
yeah,
Suppose
yeah,
the therapist slips it into the community, or somebody it doesn't therapist doesn't do that usually.
yeah.
So again, if it gets to that, the person has the legal right to sue that person. But I think more than that, I would say that yes. I mean, from my own experience, I would say that don't tell them. I mean, again, this is what I say.
Yeah, not in
Don't,
depth, not
no, no,
details.
no, yeah, and also making mommy and daddy cannot, somehow we cannot work it out together. So we have decided to go our separate ways, but we still mommy and daddy love you very much, and you will always be part of us. So again, child-focused separation, or
Yeah,
child-focused co-parenting. But again, the details, maybe the kids will find out about the details later on. I think it's better. I agree, Rajni, the reality happens, but again, it's better to titrate that information in a way so that the whole community doesn't get, oh, I mean, it doesn't get out in the world.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Sometimes people put it on the Facebook. Isn't it crazy? Partners get so mad and they take it to this public social media, and thinking that it gives them some sort of support, a flow of support to get. In the meantime,
Yes,
what about the other kids and the other family members?
thank
I
you.
mean, yeah, you're right. It's a great question, and that's why I think in therapy setting, therapists may have to work with these issues, especially let the clients or the you know partners know the gravity of the situation.
Yeah,
It's very bad. I mean, it has a lot of implications.
Uh,
Um,
Doctor?
sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
call me Seb. Call me Seb. Seb is
Okay.
good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just wanted to know, would this be similar to triangulation, wherein, the parents pull the child in
Mhm.
either direction,
Yeah, yeah.
where each one is trying to, or wherein the parent starts displacing their emotions onto the child. And then you
Absolutely.
have the whole aspect of hyper maturity, where the
Mm.
child is expected to kind of fill in,
Yeah,
for
right.
the irresponsible parent.
Yeah, parentified child. We
Yeah.
call them parentified child. You're right. Triangulation is part of when there is. I will talk about triangulation today in the Bowen couple coaching section that I'll be dealing with, because Bowen is the one who started really talking about triangulation. And thank you. That's a great question, Aisha. And yes, it does happen. It is part of people triangulate and tell, give that information to the children because
Yeah.
they are so
Exactly.
mad. They are there, and then they want to release or diffuse themselves. So in order to diffuse, they go and dump it on, usually to one of the family members. Triangulations,
Mm.
the younger,
Mm.
generation member. Yeah,
Mm.
it is. It is messy. It's crazy. It's kind of pretty bad. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome, of course. Hey, call me Seb, people, again, and just, when you say doc, I said, oh my God, I have to perform a surgery now. I'm not a surgeon. No, just being silly. Okay. All right. Okay. So shall we move to the topic of today? So this is what I'm planning today. We will break. Of course, I don't want to talk more than 15 minutes, and then we'll take questions. So we'll start with structural couple therapy. I'm introducing to you the first, one of the coolest models. It's not structural family therapy. It is structural couple therapy. It's different. And also talk about, like Aisha mentioned about the triangulation. I'll talk about Bowen couple coaching, how that's more about intergenerational patterns and stuff like that. And as a third one, hopefully I will do substance use disorders and its impact in the family, in the couple system. I was supposed to do that yesterday. There are two more: intimate partner violence, IPV, will pick up tomorrow. And the other day after tomorrow, I will deal with sexual problems in couple therapy. So, okay, so let's start with structural couple therapy. Okay, you can move to the next slide. So again, as I said, when working with couples, we need to know the attachment dynamics. This kind of review, I already did it, and the patterns of interaction between the couple members. We had to do that. Then we had to also pay attention to the anxiety dimensions. What worries this couple system about? And their patterns of avoidance. Avoidance usually come from anxiety. Because they want, so we talked about it. When people are anxious that I'll be rejected in the relationship. So before I get rejected, I am preemptively avoiding this person. So I have the power within the system. So those dimensions are important in couple therapy. Okay, next one, Jen, please. Okay, so the origin of structural therapy approach, again, you know this already from your own classes. It was a dissatisfaction with the psychoanalytic intervention in the 50s and 60s. Minuchin and some of his colleagues came together and they said, these kind of psychoanalytic or psychodynamic approaches do not really capture the essence of what is really going on. So they began to pay attention to other dimensions, like other members the person lives with. So again, it comes from the dissatisfaction with psychoanalytic interventions. And structural couple therapy, SCT, as we call it, is a later development from structural family therapy. That's not how it was designed. Salvador Minuchin and team, they primarily focused on families. But the structural couple therapy came as a result. Because one of the reasons why it came is because we began to see, in the field, began to see most of those issues or challenges with children. Structural therapy addressed many child issues, creating hierarchy for the families and stuff. Most of the child-related issues came as a result of breaking down of the couple subsystem. So they began to pay attention to couple subsystem. That's how this whole model. So if the couple subsystem functions well, then they can be better parents. They can also be better executive people in the system. So structural couple therapy is a later development in that sense. Maybe I would say the 80s or 90s. 1980s and 90s. Structural family therapy and structural couple therapy focus on systemic influence, how the systems, other systems people are part of, impacting them, like society, job, work, how it affects their foundations and their boundaries. They also pay attention to, just like any other family systemic model, called circular causality. That means the linearity principle: A causes B, B causes C, that kind of thing. Instead of saying that, we said A causes B, B causes A, or B causes C, A and B cause together C. So this kind of it is not one partner causes the trouble, but it is cyclically, they all impacting each other. So a family therapist or systemic people pay attention to what are the key players in the life of the couple, and in what way are they contributing to this mess. They pay attention to that. And most importantly, structural couple therapy focuses on egalitarianism. That's kind of Western model in a way. I think it makes sense in the Indian context also. Again, both are partners. Egalitarian means equal partners. If you look at structural family therapy, there's a hierarchy. Dad and mom are on top, children. So they form a hierarchy. But in structural couple therapy, there is no hierarchy. Both are equal partners. In some cultures, this could be a problem because I think those are shifting, hopefully, because of many socio-political reasons. I don't want to get into that. It will take a whole time about that, because now there used to be a hierarchy in our society, but that hierarchy is going away. structural couple therapists would say, again, both members are contributing to the system, both husband and wife, or both partners are, and both are equal partners, both have equal say. Look at the law in our country, in India. When I say in our country, in India, those are beginning to be recognized even at that societal level. There was a time, even in the United States, women could not get a credit card. In the 1930s and 40s, their husbands had to co-sign it. Women could not vote for a long time. Again, all those changed. Now, women, there is equality in our society also, I'm sure in India. So basically, structural couple therapy focuses on egalitarianism. Assumption is that both partners are equal. Some cultures may say, no, we are okay with our, some cultures may, it's not the general culture, but family culture would say, I want my husband to be in charge. I'm ready to. Those are variations that we can pay attention to. So, but as a model, structural couple therapy sees both partners as equal partners with equal voices to have a place on the table so that they can talk to each other. Next, please, Jen. Yes. So again, I'm going to talk about some of the assumptions of structural couple therapy. Couple is a subsystem within family system, according to this model. Couple can exist as itself if they don't have children, but if they have children, it is part of the family system. So that's why they look at it. Structure of the couple subsystem again determines how the individual members experience relationship. Say, for example, how they are organized, how the couple is organized. Are there any boundaries they have set for each other and for themselves? And is there any presence or absence of egalitarianism? They pay attention to. So all these factors are important. And the primary reason for being a couple, according to structural couple therapy, is not for romantic love. In the US, there is a notion, there's a fallacy. I think it's a fallacy. It's a clinical fallacy for us. In the mainstream community, there's a notion that people are together for love for each other. But again, we are seeing of late, that is not entirely true. People come together because of love. But if the love dies down, still people come together, still people function as a couple still, without having sex and without having all those kind of, so that still, people can still function. So romantic love is not the most important thing. Love can take many forms, as we know. Romance is only part of that. Love can be kind of, people can look at love as a feeling, or people can look at love as a commitment or a discipline, or whatever it is. Again, we talk about disciplined care, caring for the other person in spite I don't really have any feeling for her. My feeling for it's like my coffee, right? I have coffee. Coffee is hot now, but this coffee will get cold soon. So that kind of romance may get cold, get that cold. So again, the structural couple therapy accepts that. Romance is not the only reason people should be together. So assumption of competence, and also structural couple therapy assumes assumption of competence. What does it mean? It means both the couple members have, at least as in principle, have the capacity to be with each other. That's what brought them together. That's the way they functioned in the early part of marriage, but then it dies out. But again, competence is always there. This competence can be resuscitated. If the competence is gone for one of the parties, it went dormant, then it can be resuscitated or re-energized. That's what happens in therapy. Okay, next one, Jen. So again, structural family therapy focuses on couples' roles, individuals' roles and functions in the context of relation. Like, what role does couple members play in their life? How do members make decisions? Couple members and family members make decisions. What is their level of involvement if they have children in the life of the involvement in parenting? And what have they learned from family of origin? All these are important questions when they create genogram. So when suppose you are seeing the couples, both as a unit and individually, you will always pay attention to their role in these systems, 4 systems. In the couple system, in the executive system, which means how they make decisions, in the parenting role, parenting level, and also what have they learned from the family of origin. Next one, Jen. Now we're going to come to some of the coolest things about structural therapy. Okay, you can take the next one. Okay. Structural therapy focuses on the presence or absence of egalitarianism, I said. It also pays attention to the influence of various systems. These couple members may be working members. They may have a workforce. They may be part of a workforce. There may be stressors from there, or all kind of excitement from there. So they pay attention to the influence from those systems. They faith organizations. If they have any spiritual affiliation, what is the role of this faith in their couple life? I had a case last year here in my practice, a clinical practice. A couple came. They talked about, I don't know, it may be relevant for you, I guess. The couple came and we have the couple issues, a lot of communication related issues, a lot of what do you call involvement with the system outside. They came from Jehovah Witness team. Again, I'm not saying anything about Jehovah Witness as a reality. That is, I'm not generalizing anything. I'm talking about that particular system. They said that wife was spending enormous amount of time in the church activities. Like she works Monday through Friday, and then Friday evening she comes home and then she goes to church, not to pray, but again, church activities. And Saturday, the whole day, they do a lot of mission-related services. They are so much part of other people's life, doing this, that, and all. Sunday, the same thing. The worship starts in the morning and then goes until, afternoon, and then they still hang over. Again, the point is, the husband's complaint was, I do not have my wife here. This is not what I signed up for. She is here, but she's not here. She's part of this, the relationship, but she's most of the time she's out. So, couple therapy started. Again, her justification was this, God has given me this life. Again, she was talking about her faith conviction in the sense that I am called to this ministry. I have to evangelize out there. So those were really, basically, all those are noble things. At the same time, it was encroaching into their couple life in her responsibility to her parents. So again, that's what I said. Structural couple therapist pays attention to the influence of other systems, faith organizations, and various systems in society. Some people are so involved in the world outside, and they don't even see the impact it has, their absence in their availability to the partner and availability to the system. So again, you may pay attention to these kind of involvement and this kind of how it is affecting the system. That's what we pay attention to. And finally, structural couple therapy does not focus on how the couple system is formed. But they talk about how is it maintained. You may have gotten married many years ago. Your family pushed you into this marriage, but you are a couple. How are you continuing as a couple system? What is working for you and what is not working for you? So they're not blaming anyone in the past. At the same time, they're going to inviting the couple members to look into the reality of their life, how it is maintained. How do they want to continue in this way? What keeps them strong or what keeps them weak? All those things these are questions for the couple members, not for their family members. Next one, please. I'm just kind of setting about I hope this is going to be useful for you in terms of when you assess the case. Okay, so now structural couple therapy also talks about what is a healthy couple and what is not a healthy couple. So it may give us some information. Again, these are based on the clinical studies and many mainstream studies as well. But again, we may have to use this information in the most useful way for our community, because probably you may not agree with some of these assumptions. So what structural couple therapy system would say is a functional or healthy couple can maintain individuality and a connection with each other. So they are still individuals. They are couple members. I'm married to my wife, Rachel, Naishi Rachel. At the same time, I'm Seb. I don't give up on my Sebhood, who I am, because I have a history of my individual things and all those part of that. But at the same time, I'm connected to my partner. So I have two identity here, at least. My individual identity, I have to preserve that individual identity. At the same time, I have to also preserve my couple identity. I'm not anybody. My identity is defined by my commitment to my wife. So in my relationship with people outside, in my commitment to outside, this is my primary loyalty is to my partner who has come into my life, who has started with me. So again, so the point is, sometimes people let go of one identity. They let go of their individuality to be part of the couple, or they just take off individually, and couple identity gets lost. They outsource it to maybe to somebody else, maybe to that kind of like parenting responsibility, or helping the wife responsibility, or partner responsibility. So again, a healthy couple system maintains both. Do you get that picture? I mean, is it clear for you? So connection and individuality at the same time. And also they have clear boundaries and adaptive exchanges. Clear boundaries means when structural couple therapy talks about clear boundaries, they are talking about clear boundaries in the sense that it is not diffused boundaries. Diffused means there is no boundary at all. They have become one party. It's funny though, when people are in love, I'm talking about the romantic phase of life, there is no individuality. They're all over each other, right? She becomes he becomes she. They are, they feed each other, they take care of each other. They have no feelings for them. I mean, they have feelings. There's others' happiness. My partner's happiness is my happiness. I'll give up and sacrifice everything that I have. That works. That's the way the nature has designed it. But it changes. That kind of, then people individuate from that. Once they get into a relationship, they individuate. They become individuals. At the same time, connected. So again, the clear boundaries means maintaining my individuality at the same time connected to the other, not diffuse. Rigid means, totally, whether she dies or lives, I don't care. This is my life. She can be part of it. So again, the rigidity of that creates a lot of conflicts later. So healthy couples have clear boundaries. It goes back, and also adaptive exchanges. That means with surrounding systems. Adaptive exchange in the sense that, say for example, my family of origin, my brother is struggling financially. So probably in consultation with my wife, I may lend a supporting hand to him. So I may, or we as a couple system may decide to allocate resources to outside world. They may not be the most important part of my life at this time, but again, so they do that kind of adaptive exchanges of resources with the surrounding subsystems. Sometimes in some of the kids, like some of the problems that I have seen here is among the middle-aged couples or elderly couples, they have saved their resources, their retirement fund, and everything is there. Now one of their children adult child is struggling or having a trouble with something else. And then so unilaterally, without consulting with the partner, mother writes a huge check to the son with the understanding that he will pay back. But son never pays back in that particular case. And then it affects the whole system. So again, I'm talking about yes, helping out the system is good. At the same time, it has to be done in consultation. That's what. So this is the like an egalitarian part comes in there. It also, third factor is very important for me in terms of clinical work. Structural couple therapy therapist tolerates, celebrates, and actively encourages differences between partners. So the partners, can they celebrate their differences? So or and also encourage. Like for example, my wife, she's a very meticulous organizer. I'm not. I can organize things, but again, she's a systemic. She does a lot of. She works for Yale University here. She teaches there. So she's very organized in the way she does things. If there's a problem, she breaks down into those kind of components. She does very good with that. And I'm a therapist. I can also do those things. But again, she's much better than me. So again, that's a strength for us because that is useful for all of us. So if I'm a husband who gets threatened by that, oh, she is calling shots, she's taking over, she has people are beginning to appreciate more, she speaks better, those kind of, again, people love her, people respect her a lot. So that can be a challenge for me, that can be a threat to me. So again, my partner's differences or my partner's uniqueness or resourcefulness can be a threat for a couple member, right? So again, structural couple therapy functions in a way that it enables or it helps partners to tolerate the difference, celebrates differences, and actively encourages differences. And those differences are always resources. That's how they, how the couple would be invited to think about how that is that your partner's strength, your partner's difference, that may be annoying for you. Say, for example, your partner is always directly in your face. If there's a problem, she comes and talks to you directly about that. That could be annoying, but at the same time, it can also, how can you think of it as a resource? How can you channelize it into resource? Those are the important conversations in the couple session. They are not threats. So therapist has to really identify the differences of people and help them reconcile with it or work with it. And there are some cool things the couple therapists, structural couple therapists do. Members are resourceful to each other without losing their individuality and maintaining their unique identity. That's kind of the most difficult part for many couples. How do I function in this system without losing my individuality? Those are extremely, extremely important. Because that's why conversation between the couple members are very important. Conversations are extremely important without losing my identity. Because if I don't preserve, as Erik Erikson and all those psychosocial theorists would say, again, once you lose your individuality, you're done. Then it's a matter of death for you. Death in the sense that people I've seen in one of my research areas is addiction, and what happens is parents, so the couple members, they put their life on hold for the sake of the other. They cover for the other person. They enable the other person. They defend the other person to the world outside. They stop pursuing their personal interest and everything. And in the meantime, the other person flourishes or dies. And in the meantime, I am on hold for 15 years. They would say, I've been married to this person for the last 17 years. And first couple of years work, but the last 12 years, I've been dead in this. I have not pursued anything in my personal life, anything that excites me, anything that keeps me as me. So it's again, it's an important part. Partners share, and lastly, partners share resources with each other and other relevant systems. I talked about it again. How do you support? My wife is great in many things, but she comes to me for certain things. Then we kind of exchange our resources in that system. So we have uniqueness most of the time, and at the same time we have differences. So those are extremely important. Again, the next one, Jen, please. Okay, you can take the next one. The next slide. Okay, what is unhealthy? All that I said before, the opposite of those. Yeah, unhealthy. So external boundaries are either diffused or rigid. I think this is where we can explain intimate partner violence here in some ways. There are external boundaries. I talked about internal boundaries and external boundaries in the first session, right? Like, how do you relate to the world outside, family, for instance, your in-laws, your workforce, and all those are external boundaries, or your social circle, friend circle outside. With enmeshed, diffused boundaries, couple members lose their specific identity. Within that, they may lose their individual identity. At the same time, they can also lose their identity outside. Say, for example, mother-in-law comes and takes over. Wife loses her identity there. She has no voice. She feels, kind of a person without any power at all. Or father-in-law calls shots in the system. They may not even be living together. So couple members lose their specific identity as a mother, as a partner, all those things. With the rigid boundaries, so again, do you think it makes any sense at all? Like couple members may be living in their apartment in Bangalore or Delhi or wherever they are, but the family of origin, they call shots. They want to get updates every day. Hey, what are you guys doing? Some family, some mothers or fathers, they don't let go of their children, right? They kind of continue to control and monitor and critique, and they even assault members, not physically, most often emotionally assault, and those are really, really problematic. Because again, there is no boundaries in certain couple systems. Those are unhealthy systems, and I'm sure that you have a lot of experiences hearing from these kind of from. Do you think it is true? Like people from outside, like family of origin, and other people come and mess up the system. Any thoughts, questions, or comments about this particular one?
Hello.
Yeah, please, Millie.
Yeah. I think no. Just to add on what you said about enmesh boundaries, I think it's very true in Indian context, especially when you are the immediate extended family, that is in your in-laws kind of overpower you.
Yeah.
Or even the other partner doesn't kind of understand or is not psychologically educated to understand the need of
Right.
recognizing that okay, I am in a separate unit, family unit right now,
Yeah.
that I need to come out of my mother or father's tendencies. That concept of differentiation, which is not there.
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, that's a clinical reality in India. That does a lot of damage. We say, oh, traditionally we have done it, family the relationship like that. But it is affecting people. Like one of my cousins, she was married to this person, and then she had a lot of gold and dowry part and all those things that she received. Father-in-law, her father, her husband's father, said that one of her family members was in struggle, so please I have to use this. So without checking with her, he husband gave everything to father, and then that was squandered in some ways. It never came back. So that created a lot of stress. Again, although it was considered as a filial responsibility of son's duty, that's how he put it. It never came back. But again, that disrupted the marriage in big ways. They've been married for about 17 years now. They've been separated for about 14 years. That's kind of, they are still not divorced. So I'm saying such kind of boundary violations, external boundaries, it wasn't one incident, and many other small incidents will happen. The overpowering of intrusion in the system kind of messed up the couple's relationship with each other. That's a kind of real problem. I think in our culture,
Just a doubt. Is it also related to the way of parenting also? Because as a child, when you are upbringing them, not giving responsibility and kind of a permissive helicopter parenting or something, that does have an influence.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm glad that you said that, because you're right. Because the son was raised. I mean, there was recently Netflix had a very interesting show. I don't remember now what the name is. Probably you may know this. It's about matchmaking, right? And there was one of the couples is very interesting. I was paying attention to that. This guy is about 20 some years, early 20s. I don't know. I don't remember his name. Some of you are shaking, which means you may know this. And he studied in the US, came back to India, and his mother is calling shots. He should marry, and what dress she should wear. And mother is totally under the belief that this is my role as a mother. So the child has like a little a little fellow, little kid, my little. So again, he's such a smart professional outside in the outside world, but at home he's like little puppy, little baby. That's my word. He's mommy says okay, mommy says that, and she says hell no, I'm not going to go for that. Finally she caves in. I think it's a funny reality. Like parents don't give up their power. Helicopter parenting, that's a reality. That's such a mess, right? I mean, it worked 2 generations ago, I would say, when like women were not educated. But look at the trends today. Women are much more educated than men. Women make much more money than men, often in many cases, and still those old systems won't work. Like the family member from outside, external, they cannot call shots. That creates a lot of conflicts, especially in like in the IT industry and all. I heard a lot of stories when I was in Bangalore last year. Indian matchmaking, that's exactly what it is. That's a funny thing and such a reality. I was shocked. Shit, this happens even now. Oh my god, this is what is reality for me. Anyway, sorry, I shouldn't say those kind of things. Okay, so yeah, external boundaries, that's a huge issue in couple relationship. Jen, can you bring me back to that slide, please? Any other question about this, people?
So this is Akila. There is a case I know where the mother-in-law is so overbearing that she demands a certain amount of money, and the son has absolutely no freedom, and of course that is affecting their relationship.
Couple relationship.
She calls the shots, and she even asked him to leave her, and he was confused
The mother-in-law
whom
is
to
asking.
listen.
Wow.
Yeah, whom to listen to? Should he be married, or should he, what to do? He was so confused for a while that he sent her back, in fact, to her house. So it
Wow.
really took a toll on
Of
this
course.
woman. Yes.
No,
So no, this surprisingly they're still making it work, but it does take a toll on the. So it's the interference sometimes can really be too much.
too much and traumatic too, right? Again, it's very traumatic. So think about
Yes.
one person calling shots and the other, the wife and her family, and if there is any children, how many people are affected by these? And that's why exactly I
Yes.
said marriage is not for all. This is only for the brave hearts. People, otherwise, I think it is a problem. Even in the US, sometimes we see some of these crazy patterns, not among many people. Again, that those are really doing a lot of damage. And I think it's a culture. That's why I was talking about yesterday. I said, our culture is great, Indian culture. I love that, many aspects of it. But again, it is almost time for us to begin to question some of these things. How is it helpful for a mother-in-law to call shots in a young couple's life, and create that kind of ruckus and traumatic stuff, and then still claim that it's a great tradition? It's kind of really problem. It is. So again, these are my personal views. So
Yes, and the weird part is she's in the mother-in-law is in India and they are in the UAE, and she still calls the shots.
sure. So that's right. That's why, in the couple therapy, that's one of the challenges that I see. Couple members may be living together alone in their own place, but the power figure, the kind of the controlling comes from miles away, 4,000 or 2,000 miles away. Those are really, really realities. I think this is the reason why I think in the marriage preparation programs and all, we should also focus on parents. If my child is married, I may love my daughter, I may love my son, but it doesn't mean that I hold them for the rest of my life. And then sometimes people use guilt games, right? They make them feel guilty.
Yes.
Oh, I would die if you don't do this. Or
Yes, I think she uses a guilt a lot.
it's a powerful. Religions use it. Mothers-in-law use it. Fathers-in-law use it. We all use it, right? Guilt is powerful.
Yes.
That's a good point, Akila. Thank you for bringing it up.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Jen, can you bring me back to the to that slide, please?
Is this the one, sir?
No, I don't see anything at all. Do you see any people? No.
Oh, okay. Just a minute.
Yeah.
Can I
So-
ask a question meanwhile?
Sure, Isha. Yes.
When you mentioned like each partner should like understand the uniqueness of the other partner, and if they are getting intimidated by it, you need to address that and be okay. So when it comes in therapy, I don't think that couples outrightly say, okay, this is something which I am affected. So how do you address it, and how do you talk about it as a therapist?
Yeah. See, that's a great Isha. That's a great question. Always, you raise very, very important questions. It is true, because I think, I don't know. You tell me, is it a cultural reality or not? Like, we don't speak for ourselves. We feel kind of shy, or kind of not. It's not the shy, embarrassing for us to claim assert for ourselves who we are. Somebody has to speak up for ourselves. A parent or a teacher or a friend or a mentor, somebody. So when it comes to couple relationships, we have to speak up for ourselves. Our partners may not know who we are, or what we are capable of. And some of them, they may know. Again, so I think as couple members, in order to celebrate my uniqueness, my giftedness, and my challenges, I may have to also speak up. I may have to make my partner known. Like, for example, sometimes partners don't even know. Oh, I didn't know that you loved studying. I did not know that you loved doing XYZ. I did not know that you love music or whatever you do, but you never told me about it. So he said, I didn't want to. I expected you to think about it, to know about it. So again, there's a lot of people are not really speaking for themselves. So that's one of the part of the couple therapy. Like, can you tell us, introduce yourself to us in front of, like, for example, like, can you introduce yourself as a person with your, what you want to communicate, what you want to disclose to this relationship? You may have talked about a lot of stuff with your partner while you're dating and are living, but still, does your partner know whole thing? So again, structural couple therapists uses that opportunity to give opportunity to people to speak for themselves, so that otherwise people don't even know what's happening. say, those are really important conversations. I think it is a cultural factor. If you ask my daughter, if you ask any kid who live in the United States, they would say exactly what they want, pretty much. I want this, I want, it's all about me, all the time, me, not about you and me, this is kind of, so it's the other way around. But when it comes to, like if it's a simple thing, would you like to have a little more of this, say, coffee or something? No, I'm fine with that. Then you have to almost cajole, persuade, but the person really wants it, but wouldn't even say it. That is true in couple relationship too. Again, they don't really often say that, what they want, or what exactly they are, who they are. Those are really, so people need to speak for themselves. Isha, does it answer your question? I cannot hear you.
I was actually like more on the lines when I interact with my clients. What I see is most of the things they don't realize themselves. This is
That's true. Yeah, true.
It's a very subtle thing when you talk about these things.
Yeah.
So
True.
if they're not aware, how do we go ahead? What is bugging?
See, that's that's another layer of the question too, right? Again, so either they don't speak for themselves, they know it. In some cases, they don't even know it. That's what you're raising, right? In that case, yeah. I mean, if you are in a relationship, I'll give you something simple personally for me. In the context of relationship, you discover who you are, right? The other person becomes a mirror for you. So, the other person senses or picks up some giftedness in you. If that person is all for you, is your life partner, really loves you, then that person will give you feedback about who you are. You are good at it. Maybe you should pursue it. Encourage the person. That's why I said, healthy couple members encourages each other. They discover talents, and also they encourage, they celebrate. There are many things that again, in the context of the relationship, you discover who you are. And that is true life in general too. Isha, that you are a postgraduate and you finished your studies at Christ University and all. In the course of your interaction with your faculty members, with your student community members, with your mentors, you discovered a lot about yourself, both. And in the same way, in the couple relationship, they discover about, like, for example, I discovered so many. My wife did not know about some parts of her capacity to stay calm. She doesn't get, agitated quickly. She's calm. She's grounded. She's very methodical. And again, we had a couple of crises, not as a couple, as a family. We had to go through a couple of crises. Again, she was the calmest member in the system. So she did not even know that. So I noticed that, and we talk about it sometimes, again, couple members can be mirrors to each other. So discovering, that's why I would say marriage is such a great institution. If it is used well, people flourish, people discover themselves with their all potentials within. So I think that's what I would say. So maybe the couple system may not have the culture to talk about it. They may not. So again, couple therapists can create that culture, the rituals. Like my wife and I, we meet on Saturday mornings. That's kind of kids are in there. We spend the whole day, pretty much whole morning, catching up what we need to do. And, how do we address this problem, that problem? How do we take care of this? So again, there's a lot of resourcefulness are used and encouraged. Those kind of things. Those kind of conversations must be instituted in couple relationship. I think that's a way to discover talents within. Speak up and discover. Yeah, I would say, yeah.
So, in the Indian culture, the family plays a very important role.
Correct.
So, where we say that the mother-in-law is dominating or the girl's mother is dominating over the families, sometimes it happens that they do help them out to sort out their things also. If the couple is more stronger and communicate with each other, I think they can get over a lot of hassles about this, because family does play a very important role in the Indian culture.
Absolutely, Indu. I cannot agree more. I am agreeing with you. Yes, absolutely. Yes, like for example, the members may have outside family of origin members may have more experience in certain things, wisdom that they may have. They may be able to share all that stuff. But again, what structural couple therapy would say is, rather than them assuming and intruding into the system, let the couple members ask for it or request for it. So that can create sort of competency and a kind of maturity for the couple members. At the same time, they can be connected with the family members. In some cases, good things, yes, of course. Sometimes the intrusion can come in all kinds of ways. For good things, people don't mind. Say, for example, many of the couple members, when they have their first child here in the US, they invite their parents to come and stay with them for a few days. They help out with the baby. Because that entry of a new baby into the couple system is kind of very challenging. They don't know, sleepless nights and changing diapers and all those kind of things are very challenging for them. So these people come and share their resources, friendship, and they give a break to the couple to go and have dinner or spend time outside and those kind of things. But they are invited often. Otherwise, like mother-in-law decides or father-in-law decides, oh, let me just go and visit them. Usually, they don't. Those things are not tolerated here. But in India, so again, I'm saying the point I'm trying to say is structural couple therapists would be able to help couple members negotiate what can be invited into the system and how do we negotiate with the family of origin. Those could be part of the conversations. Otherwise, they would suffer a lot. I totally agree with you, Indu. Those are helpful. At the same time, they can also be challenging in some ways. They can take over completely, right? Like for example, my mother-in-law, when we had the children, mother-in-law would come and she's so sweet and she's nice. But again, sometimes she has a tendency of helicoptering and or taking over. Then my wife and I did converse with each other about it, and she was the first one to notice it. And then we kind of talked to her mother-in-law, like, hey, thank you so much for your help, but at the same time, you can back off a little bit with respectfully. Again, it was not a fight. What happens is like, people don't talk about it. The intrusion happens over and over and again. Finally, you're so resentful, kind of blow it off, right? That kind of destroys it. The person is shocked. My God, I was trying to help you. I was not taking over. Those kind of. So the point is, structural couple therapists can negotiate and help the couple members negotiate those kind of relationship with the family of origin and outside forces. Does it make any sense, Indu?
Yes, absolutely.
Seb, I just wanted to clarify something.
Sure, Sarah. Yeah.
You just mentioned that, when couples have their first child, they, ask for their parents or in-laws to come and spend some time with them.
Correct, yeah.
Now, they are not part of the family system, right? When they're living separate, they're not living with their in-laws or... So
right.
When they are to come, is that part of adaptive exchange that you spoke about?
Yes, exactly. So adaptive exchanges means you are allowing certain members to come in, or you reach out to somebody. Say, for example, adaptive exchange could come in both ways. Inviting people into our life, like, for example, I need help. Mom, can you come and watch the kids, or can you come and stay with us? That's an invitation. In some cases, an elderly parent, so for example, they are sick or they need a lot of help and assistance. So the couple members decide, okay, maybe Jen here, Lily. I hope there's no Lily. Lily, maybe go and spend some days with your mom, and I'll watch the kids here. And Lily goes. That's being supportive partner, right? Again, that part, she owes it to her mother. Mother really needs it, and mother wants some help. So then adaptive exchanges, Sarah, in that sense, is both ways, right? Both receiving help and also offering help. So that kind of help usually happens in consultation. When people are consulting, those exchanges can go well. Otherwise, if people do it unilaterally without consulting the other person, then that can create a lot of resentment in the couple relationship. Say, for example, I'm seeing a couple now, and wife, the only daughter, and she's about 32, and mom is about 60s, late 60s. She's struggling with a lot of issues. She's a widow, mother. So she goes there, and the husband has been very supportive. But again, she is beginning to spend more time there. Her parenting responsibilities are beginning to struggle. I mean, she is kind of almost like a sandwiched people, right? Sandwiched between elderly parent and young children at home. So she's that is creating a lot of kind of struggle and tension for this couple relationship. Again, we are resolving it in the couple thing. Again, he's very supportive of her. At the same time, he wants her to have some sort of balance and take care of her, because he's worried. Husband is worried about her not taking care of herself and getting lost in the system. That also is mediated by many factors, like anyway, I won't get in there because it goes into the history of mother-daughter relationship. They had a sour relationship. Now she feels guilty. She thinks that she needs to take care of her mother. So that's taking over her responsibility to be at home with her kids. So it's never simple, right? It's always complex. So adaptive exchanges, yes, Sarah, absolutely, both ways, in and out. Yeah. Again, and then we talked about external enmeshed boundaries. We also talk about rigid couple members with rigid boundaries. Couple members are often cut off from the external world. This is a good place for understanding intimate partner violence, IPVs. So couple members may frequently experience emotional overload. So what happens is, husband says, you cannot talk to your mother-in-law anymore. You're married to me. You should definitely not have any more relationship with any of your friends. Or when you go to work and come back, you cannot talk to men. You cannot talk to those kind. It's again those are boundaries. One of the partners puts certain rigid boundaries around his partner. That creates a lot of issues in terms. First of all, it creates a lot of emotional overload, because we have so much struggle and stuff going to friends, not talking about what's happening in my couple, or how I make love and all that. It's not about that. It's about, there are certain factors I may have vent to some friends, some close people. Those are helpful. That helps me to regain my sense of equilibrium and my normalcy. So again, once all those sources are cut off, once I'm isolated from the rest of the world, that is creating a lot of struggle for me, emotional overload. Those and support system cannot use the support systems and all this. Again, that's why before you marry anyone, please, I would say, tell the my students, I would tell them, make sure, Isha, I've talked about it at some point. Make sure that you think about it seriously, because who are you marrying? What are you marrying to? You'll always marry a set of problems, of course, at the same time, a lot of strengths, but know what you're getting into. And it is impossible to know everything about that. We may have some beginning knowledge. We discover about the other person only in the course of time. But again, negotiations, conversations, those are extremely important. So otherwise, you'll get cut off from the rest of the world. Support system. I can tell you, intimate partner violence, one of the traits of that is like they begin to cut off your resources to the outside world. They restrict you to this corner. They take away your freedom. And then you begin to believe in that. That becomes normal. And then in the meantime, families wonder, family members wonder, family version wonders, what happened to my daughter? What happened to my son? They don't call me anymore. They talk to me for 1 minute when the husband is not there or the wife is not there. I have a cousin. He cannot talk to his sisters anymore because his wife has put a moratorium there. You cannot. And this kind of they were such a close-knit system. Now it's kind of that cut off. He's so scared of his wife. He's so scared of his wife, and she withholds sex and all those things as a punishment. It goes both ways, right? It's pretty. That's why systems are pretty messy. So differences are not tolerated in this kind of unhealthy system. Rigidified. The differences are rigidified in the warring position, conflicts and fights and craziness. Let me say this: conflicts are perfectly okay. Conflicts are pathways to more understanding. What I'm talking about is unmanaged conflicts. Conflicts without. If a couple member says we have no conflict, I say bullshit. You do have conflict, or you must be dumb not to see it. I don't say that the direct way. Conflicts are part of it. When two members live together, there are differences, cognitively, emotionally, all kind of differences would come in. Those are conflicts. Conflicts are great, but if they cannot manage conflicts, dysregulated conflicts, those really become problematic. They could get into warring positions. And also people in the couple system, if there is no egalitarianism, every religion talks about egalitarianism in fundamental ways. At the same time, the way it's interpreted is different. There is a right for both partners in some ways, but that right disappears or wanes away. That is really problematic, and members are consistently stressful and debilitating to each other, which kind of destroying each other. We see that especially in triangulations and all. We see those kind of stuff. Jen, you can do a couple more, and then I will. Emergence of dysfunctions. When does problems start in the couple relationship? Couples may develop or experience dysfunctional patterns when they go to normative life cycle transitions. So couples are very well settled. They know each other pretty well, and then they have the first baby. The entry of the child, a new person into the system, upsets the homeostasis, the balance in the system, right? It goes through a adaptive cycle. It takes about a couple of years, usually. Or launching of children. When a new member comes in, or when the child leaves for college, leaves home, and then that time, that's a life cycle change there. That's the time usually the dysfunctions come back. All those unsettled issues or latent and dormant attachment pattern, all those things come back. It doesn't mean they're coming back, doesn't mean that they're going to stay. You can address it, you can deal with it. That's why sometimes they for therapy and other things. And also non-normative stressors, which means unexpected stressors, like you lose a job, your partner loses a job without due to COVID-19. Many people are talking to me about my friends in Bangalore. They're saying that some of them had to work with 30% less. And some of them were let go of there because of their companies were folding. They could not keep the job. So those are non-normative, beyond our control. The pandemic, COVID-19, caused a lot of such things: loss of employment, devastating medical conditions. That I had a good friend, Vipin, first name only, great guy, and then he was the primary source of income for the family. He was diagnosed with leukemia, and then he cannot work anymore. So there's a heavy reduction in the source of income. Wives worry about him dying soon, and his worries about young children. All those are non-normative. It creates a lot of struggle in the system. So all the dysfunctions and all the patterns, problematic patterns emerge. Next one, Jen, please. Okay, so assessment. I think I'm going to come to some of this. Therapists may notice dysfunctional patterns from the culture. When the couple members come to you, one of the things is you may see a lot of dysfunctional patterns, the way they talk to each other, and also the way they're reporting to each other. This is our problem, XYZ the problem is. You may pay a lot of attention. At the same time, it is not you who define as a therapist what the problem is. It's the couple members they have to define. In some cases, couple members may be under the illusion that everything is fine, but then you also see that there are symptomatology developing. I'm fine with mother-in-law coming in or father-in-law coming in. They may say that as an exercise of speaking, but in reality, they may be struggling with that. They don't have the courage to say that. So again, then you as a therapist, you sense it, some symptoms coming out. So you may get some nuances about that. So you may bring it to the, is it really working? You have to come back to those kind of questions. Couple members may present a self-determined problem. They present the problem, not you. Not a mother-in-law says you should go for therapy. Not the priest or the guru or the imam or pastor says you should go for therapy. Although they may say it, but again, when they come into therapy, it is the couple who decide what the problem is. Not somebody else. Then only the structural couple therapist would work on that, because it has to come from within the system of couple. Assessment focuses on the nature of boundaries on the way. And we talked about that. We can take can you move a little more forward? Okay. Yeah. Therapeutic change. I would end it here, actually. Maybe one more. Therapeutic change happens only so one of the questions we therapists always ask is, what brings about therapeutic change? What is your philosophy of change? Some people would say, some of the models would say, when behavior changes in the system, when people function in certain ways, change happens. That is true. Some people say, people from the psychodynamic or psychoanalytic traditions would say, insight creates change. So once they know, things will change. So some theorists would say, again, you have to know what theory are you using, what is the mechanism of change in the theory. So what brings about change? What brings about therapeutic change? For this, structural couple therapy is both, but more on the side of experience. So when, say, for example, couple members are fighting with each other, they're bringing a lot of issues, in the context of therapy, you are restructuring their interaction, so they have a different experience of their partner. So they are talking to each other in a condescending way. So again, you are restructuring in the room. Please, Tom, can you try the same message in this way? And Tom tries it. He's soft now. He's not yelling. He's soft now. He communicates it, how she hears it. So often I tape these kind of conversations, I kind of videotape these and then play it back to them so that they can see what they are doing in the room. So relationally, the point is, relationally, they experience each other differently. At home, they may be yelling and they have a different relational experience at home. But in the context of the couple therapy, after assessing it, they experience each other differently. Structural couple therapies would say change happens only when couple members experience differently, only then. So most of the, after the initial session, 3 sessions, I would say 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, we kind of, we do that relational restructuring. 50 minutes of the session, 30 minutes on this, talk to each other. I give direction to them. That's what structural therapy does. Why can't you try this in a soft way? Why can't you try it in a more assertive way? Why can't you, when she's very soft and weak and all those things, can you speak more loud? Can you be more clear about that sentence? So you kind of facilitate, you direct that kind of conversation. So until she's sure that she delivered the message well, it's again training. So the Tom begins to experience his wife. Oh, this is what you meant. So I did not know that. When you said that, I thought you meant that. No. Can you communicate that more clearly until Tom gets it? Once Tom gets it, are you satisfied, Lily, with this? Yeah. So again, there are a lot of relational. So the point is, couple members experience each other relationally in a new way. They begin to rediscover themselves in the couple therapy, and then they bring it back to their home and they practice it. So that the rest of couple therapy would be part of the new relational experience. Does it make any sense to you people? So I think that's where the most important factor changes happen usually. It's very hard for people to change. I remember a case, he would always kind of, when they begin to talk about something, he completes her sentence. He kind of doesn't let her complete the sentence. So he kind of assumes, he meant well though. He said, I know her, I can read her well. No. In the meantime, she was happy in the beginning, but she was mad. You don't even let me complete my sentence, But she was not talking about her being mad about it. So in the relational context of the couple therapy, we help them practice those. So Tom has the urge to speak up. Said, no, Tom, wait, just let her complete the sentence. So again, then Tom learns. So again, relational experience can really be powerful. I think, Jen, just one more. I'm sorry for saying this one more time. Yeah, I think I can say more. I'm going to end it here. Therapy with couple members is the usual protocol. You don't do couple therapy without the other member present, of course. At the same time, in the course of the assessment, you will see them individually, right? To assess, is there any abuse going on? Is there any violence going on, emotional violence, physical violence? Because in the couple therapy, some people may not even tell you the whole truth, right? Because they're afraid they have to go back and live with this person. So before I take any couples, I will take them only after my 3rd sessions. So I screen them, I assess them. Is there any intimate partner violence going on? Is there any abusive situation going on? Is there any affair going on? Because if there is any affair going on, often it is very hard to bring it in the beginning itself. The other party may not even know it. The other party may notice, like, my wife is not interested in having sex with me, for example, or my husband is not having. He's emotionally distant from me. So then in the individual session, in screening time, in the 1st, 2nd session, I would say, I would look into that. I would ask as a protocol, do you have anything to share with me here in this? Because and she would say, yes, I'm close to somebody outside, and we are in love. So those are, I'm not going to go and report it right away to the husband about that. But again, so in that case, depending on its nature, violence or affairs or secrecy or those kind of things, depending on that, I may say probably couple therapy may not be advisable here. It could be contraindicative at this time. You may have to work on this issue first before you do couple therapy. Because couple therapy is about 2 parties coming together and sharing their perspective. There's no secrecy there. So if there's something going on, if the therapist knows about it already, confidentially, if you're contracting into therapy, that's why I said I don't contract into therapy until it's a 4th session. That's kind of discernment time for the first 3 sessions for me. I think I will end it there. Any questions, thoughts? I said so many things about it, but again, I'm just, yeah. Any questions about any of this model? Yeah.
So this is Nidhi. Yeah, you said that no couple therapy is contraindicated in case of an abusive background.
Yeah.
No, so my question is, what is no in case if one partner is suffering from mental illness,
Mhm.
and so that kind of situation, how do you deal it? Like in India, like the case is like uh, the parents of the mentally ill person, or
Mhm.
or she might have got the mental illness after
Diagnosed.
marriage also. So the
Mhm.
parents expect the other person to take care as well.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
So like that. So how do we do in
Yeah.
structural family therapy?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, Millie. Yes, mental health challenges really impact the couple system. That's why then I talked about it in the first session. I said we have to work with mental health professional psychiatrists. Like, for example, in my practice, I have a psychiatrist friend, and I refer the cases to psychiatrists. So sometimes we kind of, so I work with psychiatrists in that sense. But coming back to the question that you're raising in terms of cultural context, where mental health is still as a taboo, and all the or seeking help, mental health is kind of taboo, and even the couple members may not even want to pursue that route. So I think those can be resolved through psychoeducation. I will talk about that. Psychoeducation is a critical part for many things, because what happens, Millie, is most of the couples who are starting in couple therapy, um, they have to go through a kind of rebirth process. I call it a rebirth process in terms of who they are, what they are, and what they can do and what they may not be able to do. Again, it's a kind of negotiation. Most of these, you become almost like a Socratic person. You begin to ask questions. So, and then some of them may be, maybe having trouble seeing a psychiatrist. Again, in the meantime, he is depressed and he is going through hell, and there's all kind of crazy stuff, and those need to be stabilized to do therapy, right? So I think psychoeducation, educating the couple members about what that is, because there's a lot of um, distorted views about mental health in among the couples in India and everywhere, even in the US in some cases. I think so. Those are couple part of the structural therapy approach is psychoeducation on that. What the issues are, what the issues are challenging them, in what ways, like for example, depression is debilitating their sexual intimacy, or in what way addiction is causing trouble in this. So again, those are psychoeducation. So you get you connect this couple members to resources outside so that they can function better. So I think that kind of rebirth process many times, I think those are part of the work that we have to do, because many people are not even aware. They don't even accept. They don't want to even seek help. They shut down. They said they won't come back to therapy because again. But we have to do what we are supposed to do. Conversations about it, creating awareness, consciousness raising. We talk about in the room.
Okay, sir.
So sometimes they use, even if we know that they have a mental problem or something, but it
Yeah.
can be used against them for
Yeah.
either divorce cases or this. So we have to be very careful before we think of taking help of the psychiatrist, or indirectly we do take help of the psychiatrist,
Yeah.
but
I,
sometimes it happens.
Yeah, Indu, I think again that you're right, absolutely right. Sometimes people are aching to get out, right? And then they realize, oh, they're afraid. There's a diagnosis comes in. She has XYZ issues, and then husband is shocked and scared, and that news gets out in the family of origin. And the family of origin says divorce her, or that diagnostic information or the diagnosis that you received could be your death sentence, right? In some senses, they lose their power in the system. They are treated like sick person in the system. Those are, again, those are real issues in the couple. That means ultimately, somebody's calling shots there. Again, this is a huge issue in the context. And in my family, unfortunately, something like this happened. Like one of my cousin's wife came into the system, and my cousin got married to her, and then after the first child, she went off. In the meantime, she was taking medication. The husband did not know anything about that medication. It was a secret. And then after the kid was born, she stopped taking medication, and then she was, she had trouble with many bipolar related stuff and other factors, and that really came to the fore. And then my cousin felt that it was a betrayal. Family did not disclose that information. Wife did not disclose that information. She was, and then it was like a taboo topic, and never talked about it. And the diagnosis was almost like a death sentence. And then he didn't divorce her. He sent her home. Against most of the family cheered it, like, oh yeah, that's right, we should do that. Like it's such a messy thing. And then I had a conversation with him several times, and I had conversations with his psychiatrist and with his family. And then finally, of course, she's fine now. It's about 17 years later. They're all fine there, So they had to. My cousin had to learn about what it was, and the more he learned about what the issue was, then all those things, he began to understand. Empathy came in the room. It took a long time, though. It took a long time, but they are together. They're happy, I think, most of the time, but they still have trouble. But again, he now takes her to the psychiatrist. He takes. So I'm saying, in some cases, that could be a death sentence. Indu, you're right. That could be. It can be used against them. In my cousin's case, it was in the beginning phase. People are mad in our family. It was, and then in fact, one of the aunts of ours brought that the alliance, and she knew about it. She was a medical doctor herself. She and this girl's mother were good friends. That was a setup. And then my cousin stopped talking to her. That's kind of, it is such a messy thing, It's like a messy stuff. But again, it all worked out eventually. Does it make any sense, Indu?
Yeah, absolutely, sir.
I think conversations are extremely important. Education. That's why psychoeducation is so hugely important. That's what I would say. Before people getting married, they should go, if they're dating, they should have some sort of relationship enhancement or relationship discovery kind of sessions. To understand who they are, what are they bringing to table, what are their fears. All those things are an important part of the whole thing. Somebody's asking, how relevant, what is it? There was a question, I forget, I don't see it here. Somebody asked a question, how relevant is medical checkup prior to marriage? Oh yeah, I would say absolutely. I mean, it's a good thing. And I remember a case, I also work with the tribunal of there's a Catholic community here. Tribunal, tribunal, and then they found out the couple got married. It was a traditional system. They'd never slept together before, and all that. They did not know sexually. So he had trouble with. I'll talk about the sexual disorder section at that time. He had trouble with having an erection in the first place. And first day, they thought it was just he was too nervous. Second day, it didn't work. Third day, then it began, and then she began to really struggle a lot. She didn't talk about it for several months, 6-7 months, and then finally she went to talk to her parents about that. Not in, they cannot sexually compatible. So that created a lot of that. That led to, again, the tribunal consulted with me on this one. We're talking about impotency. So again, those are kind of, marriage had to be null and void in that case. It was a system existing prior to that. So I would say medical checkup, advice. It's good to know who your partner is, or sometimes people conceal that, like diabetes or all those kind of things related stuff. They don't share with their partner before they get married, and they discover in relationships. I mean, if you discover something that you did not know before, it's one thing. If you're concealing that information and getting into this contract with this person is another thing, right? In the same way, those kind of open conversations are important. That may be hard. But families may have its own agenda. They want to get this marriage done or get it done, and then they deal with that. Those are unfortunate realities. But again, people need to, after the fact, they need to make sense of it. They need to come to some sort of consensus. Otherwise, the relationship can struggle a lot. I was just looking at one of the comments here.
That's the thing. That's relevant. Why I asked this is, in many cases, they don't come out with, especially I'm talking in context of, I work in an hospital, but I'm not a counselor as yet. What happens is people do not give the history before.
Right.
Like they may have, diabetes is one, HIV, HbSAg, more dangerous.
HIV, another one, right, a huge one, yeah.
And also the family history of probably mental illness. That's a major cause.
Yeah, absolutely. And people hide it most of the time, right? because they are afraid of. I think as a culture, we are not very direct people, right? We kind of either we don't know, or we know and we conceal it, right? In some cases, I think those are really. It's time for us to really begin to look at it. In the US, what happened is, it was the case about 60, 70 years ago, but now people are beginning to talk about it. And the talking does not stop people from getting married. People are knowing into it. Yeah, my wife has XYZ, or my husband has XYZ. And in knowing that they are willingly coming to the relationship, that relationship will be relatively okay. Again, they will still have to figure out things again. At least that awareness, betrayal is not there, right? Otherwise, it's kind of betrayal in some ways. In some cases, people, hide their having a child outside the system. I remember a case where we had a proposal came in, and she had a child during her college days, and parents hid that fact, and child was adopted by somebody, and then that came to light in the course of the marriage. Marriage happened a few years later. This happened. Anyway, that's such a messy thing. So I would say again, Benedicta, that's a good point. I think as a culture, I think it's time for us to educate our people more about these things. These old traditional wisdom of some of our parents, don't talk about it. Let's let them figure it out. I think that's disservice to the community, because I think that's a real issue. HIV is another factor.
Epilepsy is one thing where many people are hiding, and then later on it creates problems in the between the couple.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's all about the management, right? Again, even in the couple therapy context, people are married, they are happy with life in general, but again, this particular side, epilepsy or whatever, they may cause some struggle. Again, if people are educated, they can get the help, they can manage. Pretty much everything can be managed. Like your diabetes, not a big deal if you really manage it, right? If you take the medication, if you do the exercise, all those there are many resources available. So the couple members can be educated about these. Some people use it as, oh yeah, you hid it from me, so it's a reason for divorce. I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. So those are, I mean, people can use it, you're right, in all kinds of ways.
Yeah.
Really,
mostly they use it because you have hidden it from them, so they say you should have told us before marriage.
Correct. I mean, they are right in some ways, right? Because but at the same time, we are human mechanisms, right? I mean that's why the couple members have to be really on board, not the mother, not the father, not the family. They have to be on board. I think it has to happen in the context of what I have seen is, in spite of knowing about some of these factors after marriage, but still relationship can survive, because they can still grow, they can still do a lot of things, because the person cannot be identified as, he is not diabetes, he has diabetes. She is not epileptic, she is not bipolar, she has bipolar. That's kind of distinction between the person and the issue, right? So those people get it. We are all intelligent beings. I think we are all rational beings. In couple therapy, we see the rationality coming out in all kinds of interesting ways. People grow up. That's why a rebirth is definitely possible in the therapy. Any other question before I can spend a whole day and weeks on this model. It's such a rich model, but I'm hoping that you're getting a sense of what we need to look for. What is a healthy couple? What is not a healthy couple? What is healthy in a cultural context? What is healthy in an American context may be different in a culture. So again, as therapists, you know your culture, your mainstream community. So you need to negotiate, you need to mediate, you need to work on those factors to create conversations. Couple therapy is all about conversations for me. Creating good conversation, honest conversations, direct conversations, hard conversations, deep conversations. People run when people begin but the conversation is extremely therapeutic. That is healing. Even in psychiatrists come to us, like they are very good in medicine management. They are very good in the prescriptions and all those things. But at the same time, real healing happens not through medication, right? Real healing happens in the conversations. That's the kind of beauty of human race. I think we can talk, we can learn, we can grow in our understanding, we can tolerate, we can accept all those interesting factors. Therapy is amazingly such a great gift to the humanity, I would say. it revolutionizes human life in some ways. Yeah.
Hello, Seb. I
Sure,
have a
Divya.
question.
Call me Seb, Divya. Divya, yeah, I'm not a stir here. Yeah, Divya.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Seb. I have this question about one couple, especially about when we come to know that there are some very rigid ideas in a person, maybe the husband. Can we have an individual session for that one person? For example, this person felt that his wife is also working, but because she is and in Indian culture, it is like wife comes to the husband's house and she is now a possession kind of is what it's treated. So her income is my income. So she should not be giving it to her parents, or it's right for the husband to give money, support their parents, but it's not considered. If she wants to do it, she at least have to ask him.
Yeah. In other words,
So,
her money is not his money, right? Her money is not.
her money is her money is his money. His money is his money.
Yeah, right.
So
You can keep it, right? Yeah. Yeah.
So here, do we have an individual session with him about egalitarianism, that you have to treat her as equal to you? So if you have that independence in the marriage, can she also have it, or something like that?
Absolutely. That's a great conversation. Again, it sounds like it affects her, right? Because she
Yes,
is
it does.
expected to give it in its entirety so that he can dispose it the way he wants it, because now he owns her. That's the assumption, right? And she has problem with that assumption. Yeah. If that assumption, or if that kind of practice is causing marital struggle between them, then definitely it has to be talked about. And that's why, this financial management is such a huge issue. That's one of the second biggest issue in couple relationships. Like, it creates a lot of craziness in the system. People cannot assume. That's why, some of these kind of traditional marriages, they assume when the daughter-in-law comes into my house, then her money becomes my money. She becomes mine. Those are not working anymore. That's why, I think these conversations definitely need to happen. And they have to come to some sort of agreement on that one. Otherwise, that is going to create a lot of struggle. She won't stay there. That's one of the things that we are seeing in the US, right? Divorce rate has skyrocketed. 70%, 76% in some states, like in the last 20 years of studies that we're saying. Why? Many people are not getting married, so we cannot even talk about divorce in some cases. But people who are getting married in the first few years are going through divorce. One of the primary reasons is exactly this financial thing. He cannot count on. I married you because I was counting on that $100,000 that you would be coming into. No. That is, you have to come to that conversation before you make that preemptive or unilateral kind of decision. So I think many times divorce happens because of the financial reason. So I would say, coming back to you, Divya, yes, it's part of the couple things. Again, part of the intake is always about what exactly is causing trouble in the system. In this case, financial management is a trouble. What are other factors? Intrusion of the family members from outside. So again, take a list of these, and then they have to be worked out. Otherwise, it's going to create a lot of trouble in the system, in their relationship. They cannot flourish anymore.
And
so
one more.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
This is about differences. When somebody is very rigid, I'm just giving this as very simple, very common example, kind of, I would say. If in American terms, if there is a Republican and a Democrat in a house, and one person is trying repeatedly to change the other to their side, and it's not like fighting all the time or arguing all the time, but they want them to think from my side. Please come, please, you have to realize this. At least one vote can be increased by doing that, at least. But that's there. So that creates a lot of conflict. They don't even understand, and the children are like, please don't talk politics in our house. This happens, and they are not able to. It's like they have to, kind of.
Yeah.
So,
I think. Yeah. So please continue. Complete the sentence. I'm sorry.
How to resolve at least the thing that you be you and let me be me. Exactly. My views. That make those decisions.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a great question, Divya. That's a great comment also, in the sense. Yes, we don't give up who we are, right? I'm a Democrat. My wife is, of course, also a Democrat. But again, sometimes these differences are interesting. How they sometimes, there's a process. In couple therapy field, there's a whole section on how we deal with those kind of things. People try to cajole, persuade, seduce, the other person into my belief systems. When I don't try it, then I use that harsh measures. I withhold resources, I withhold sex, those kind of things. Or then goes into warring position. So again, sometimes one of the factors, again, we understand these dynamics. Yes, you have certain, at the same time, how is it affecting? Your partner is not going to budge. Your partner is not going to give up. So bringing it more and more, you can try all that you can, but at the same time, it is not going to go anywhere. So it is going to continue to create trouble in the system. Probably that would be one of the off topic that you may want to discuss, especially in the presence of the children. I'll tell you a simple example. Sometimes couple members fight about how they put toilet tissues in the, would I put it in a down way or an up way, or should I close the toilet lid or not? Sometimes, or should I leave my, those are, so again, he's not going to change. She's not going to change because he can try to change. Like I'm guilty of some of those. Like, for me, after, I don't keep the toilet, like the lid closed, and my wife hates it. She always, she wants it closed all the time, or she wants to put the toilet paper in a certain way, not, so these are bloody silly issues. But again, those are real. So now she has given up because I try not to do that again, or living. She hates to see anything in the sink at night, before we go to bed. Like, sometimes I get up and I come to write something in the early morning, and then I have a cup of coffee or something, and I leave that the cup like this in the sink. She goes nuts with it in the morning. She doesn't want to see anything in the sink. That's the first thing. So I just run to it before she gets up. I make sure that I get it out of there. I clean it and put it in the dishwasher. So again, those are, so point again, whether it's politics, whether it is certain mannerisms, whether it is simple thing they do. Again, those are the factors. People have topics we don't talk about. Like, I have my own views about my sister-in-law. I think I'm just saying, I think she is nutty, crazy, but again, my wife doesn't want to hear anything of that. So I keep that topic off, so there are things like that. I mean, it's a joke now for us. We are married for a while.
Seb?
Yeah.
Seb?
Rosa, yes, Rosa.
Yes. Can we keep the discussion at the end and continue with the objective of the session for today?
Yeah, okay, thank you. Rosa, thanks for reminding me of that. Okay, cool. Yes. So, Jen, can you move me into addiction, please? I'll just run through it. Addiction. Rosa, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the reminder.
Yes.
She's a responsible person here. She says, hey, we didn't get it done. Okay, Jenny, could you take me to addiction, which I was supposed to do yesterday? I'll do family flourishing tomorrow. Yeah. Addiction is let me start with addiction, first of all. Again, we talked about affairs yesterday, and also addiction is a huge substance use disorder. It's kind of huge challenge for the couple system. In some cases, I'm sure you must have come across with some of those things. I want to talk about some of the basic things. There is so much to talk about. I had prepared a slide for 76 first, and then I cut it down to 50, then I cut it down to 22 or something. Now I think I hope to finish at least some of those today. So this is my area of research, basically, substance abuse and addiction. I want to can you move forward to a couple in the first few? So addiction to psychoactive substances, that's one form of addiction, right? Addiction to psychoactive substances, or we call it substance use disorders, SUDs now in the 5th DSM-5. And there's another one called behavioral addiction in some cases. Could be gambling, could be compulsive buying, or compulsive sexual behavior, or internet or porn. All those kind of things are different. So behavioral addictions are also just equally bad as the other one, psychoactive substances. So what is common about addiction in the couple relationships? Addiction impairs partners' judgment, their impulse control, and their behavior. If they're addicted to some psychoactive substances or any behavioral addictions, it kind of causes a lot of those kind of judgment, the problem with the judgment. So he gets the money, he gets a salary, and he spends it in the bar, or he gambles, or he's into all those buying stuff. One of my cousins, like crazy stuff, gets each time he gets salary, he has the addiction to this kind of gadgets. He goes and spends it without even consulting with a wife about those things. Those are really problematic. And I'm going to focus primarily on substance use. Next one, Jen. Addiction to psychoactives. Yes. So there are 4 major symptoms in substance-induced or behavioral addiction. One is that activity or the substance, kind of the enormity. We call it the need to use substance or perform the troublesome behavior at higher doses or more and more frequently. We kind of talk about they build the tolerance. They lose a sense of the limit. They go beyond the limit. So 1 drink, it goes into 2 drinks, 3 drinks, 4. It goes on for. So the kind of a tolerance is built for that kind of behavior. That creates a lot of struggle within the system. The second is the uncomfortable feeling of being restless, irritable, and discontent, and following abrupt discontinuation. But when it's come to when the person goes through the withdrawal stuff, it's pretty hard for the person to go. Again, the tolerance and the withdrawal. And the third one is obsession that seems to eat the person within all. That person gets into that. It's all about that particular activity, whether it's getting the drug or using the drug all the time, even at the exclusion of the family time, or how am I going to get the next one? Whether it's behavioral or not, if they are going porn, it is all about that. It's going gambling, it's all about that. That particular activity takes over. And then there are external consequences. External consequences in the sense that they lose their resources, their money, their savings. I can tell you many. We have a gambling center close to our house, close to our state, within our state, but close to our house. People go there and gamble their money away. It's big time gambling, and then families on the street pretty much. So they don't have money to pay for the bills, or take care of the kids. So again, external consequences. Sometimes people use their finances. So we can talk about all those things. Next one, common fact. Jen? Some of the common factors about addiction, especially in the couples, are compulsive use, loss of control. They lose control over what they are using, whether it's a behavioral addiction or substance addiction. There's a pervasive sense of restlessness, intensity, irritability, and discontent, all that things. And they continue the behavior in spite of the consequences. They know that it's not a good thing. They have gone through several conversations, but still they continue to do that. We talk about relapse in that sense, into the behavior. It causes a lot of trouble in that system. Okay, next one. You can move forward. Okay. Now it's a very interesting thing. We used to think about addiction in a different light, but again, NIDA, National Institute of Drug and Alcohol, that center, they talk about substance addiction as a disease of volition. I think it was scary for me to hear that. That just came out, that research towards the end of last year. We used to think that people still had. We used to call it behavior. It's a brain disease of the brain, disease of the mind, and now we are also calling it disease of volition. Volition means the person's capacity to make decisions, the person's capacity to. So, if the person uses psychoactive substances again, depending on what type, the history of how long he has been using it. I can tell you, I can teach the whole class on this one. Depending on that, and also the history, and also the co-occurring disorders or comorbid factors, because addiction never exists itself, right? There's a depression, there is anxiety, there are other co-occurring disorders along with addiction. Addiction always correlates or there are comorbid factors. It has to be treated together. So the latest finding is that it is a disease of volition. Volition means you're losing the power to, you lose your will. What it means for me in the scientific community is that we used to believe that people can still make a choice. People can still, seek help. That's what most of the Alcoholics Anonymous and those traditions coming from the 1930s would say. Well, unless you hit the rock bottom and unless you know unless you recognize the need and you ask for help or seek help, then change can happen. I think that is not true anymore. That could be part of truth. The latest research in this field is informing us it's a matter of volition also. It's a disease of volition. Volition means the capacity to decide, to willing. So that's why the person really needs help. That person needs to be dragged into some help. So in the U.S. courts and systems, in the prison, if you are caught with an addiction, DUI, driving under the influence kind of things, you will be put in jail, and within jail you will be forced into treatment, because that person cannot make a decision to seek help, because seeking help means I need to know that I need help. But in this case, the person has lost that capacity. From a theological perspective, those who are believers in the group, this is a kind of dilemma in a way. Like, I had some conversation with some theologians about it last year when I was in Bangalore with the Dharmaram and all those kind of theological centers. Again, this is something that again, we always said, if human beings have the free will, yes, they do have the free will. At the same time, sometimes that free will also can be affected. There could be sickness in that. So, but the bottom line of the whole thing is the person needs really help, and the family needs to get this, or partners need to get this person out to help, depending on the gravity, of course. If it is just a use and abuse, then misuse, then dependence, addiction. They're all different stages, right? You know all that stuff. When it moves from abuse to addiction, then you have lost your control. Loss of control is that's kind of a huge factor. Next couple more. Okay. Substance abuse means still there is a choice. There's an involvement of the will to choose. I can still choose it. But when substance addiction or dependence, we call it now, then happens is loss of volition. This is a fascinating thing for me. As a new, it's a new reality that in the addiction community. I do write about it, addiction. I do research about addiction a lot. At least for the last 15 years, I've been in this addiction field. Ability to choose is lost because the changes in the brain chemistry. So again, you can move it to the next. I can say more about this. There's some talk about substance use disorders. You know this already. There's a personal and it affects personal and interpersonal life, the relationship with the family. It affects your employment. It affects your control. It affects health and safety. It affects there are physiological sequence and all. Again, the person cannot. So sometimes people believe that by going for AA meetings or going to prayer. I want to talk about this very quickly again. Sometimes people in place like Pota and Divine Retreat, I'm not saying anything bad about it. They do great stuff. But again, some of the notions, some of the ways they educate people, not them alone, but again, many of the spiritual organizations, God can help you. Of course, God can absolutely help you. I believe that, God's help and all. At the same time, God also wants you to, I think, as a mental health clinician, to get the help that you need, because the professionals can help. So spiritual remedy is not the remedy for addiction. Addiction has to be treated with spiritual remedy, yes, with psychiatric and psychological and mental health related, with family and couple therapy has to be there. So again, and withdrawal is one of those, because families cannot, Pota cannot do that, or other places. I'm not saying anything particular about that particular group. I'm saying that there's a notion that's, again, culturally situated kind of knowledge. Those knowledge has to be kind of questioned in our culture, in Indian culture. Spirituality is not the remedy. Spirituality is one of the factors that contributes to resilience and healing and sobriety and all those factors we can talk about. But that's only one of the components. But if you talk about real religious traditions like Christianity, Islam, and all that, they really recognize kind of working with professionals also. So again, that's a more enlightened part of that group. Can you move forward a couple more? Substance addiction is a brain disease. We talked about it very quickly. It's so you can flip it through. I want to go to the last, almost to the relapse, how it is relevant for the family. Move forward, yeah. Yeah, I just put in porn. You can pull through porn. Keep moving forward. These are all behavioral addiction. Yeah, okay. I want to talk about this just for a few minutes before we take it for the questions. When couple members discover that one of the members has an addiction issue, addiction related, say for example, substance use and substance use related disorders like abuse or addiction in that sense, definitely that person needs help. And it is part of the help that both partners can be present for the treatment program. The treatment is basically to educate each other and also to get the right help, either medical help and psychiatric help and also psychosocial help. And it's also part of the addiction recovery relapse. That's what I want to focus on. Relapse is part of recovery. Relapse is part of the process. Addiction treatment unavoidably entails working with relapse. Sometimes, partners are shocked. They said, we went through this kind of treatment. You were in treatment for a long time. You took a break from your work. You went through this treatment program for several weeks. I gave you that break and all those things you successfully completed. Now you relapsed. Relapse means going back to the old, beginning to use again. They interpret such relapse. It's a huge issue in couple relationship. Interpret that relapse as a betrayal. Now, people, the most important thing about addiction is relapse happens, slips happen. That is part of the recovery process. Nobody is completely recovered in that sense. Relapse is definitely, it will happen every now and then. So discussion of relapse must be an integral part of couple therapy. Couple therapist has to educate this couple member about relapse, the nature of relapse. The relapse happens not because of the choice the person made. Let me have a drink, or let me, shoot this one. This is not a choice often. This is part of the disease, that the volition part that we talked about. It can be healed, it can be managed, but again, it happens every now and then. Next one, please. Can you take it to the next one? Okay, yeah. Relapse occurs for a myriad of factors, like co-occurring disorders I talked about. In addiction, addiction is not alone. Addiction always goes with something else. Addiction goes with the depression, anxiety, trauma, especially when traumatic events precipitate or kind of resurges or emerges in some ways. When trauma hits it again, person kind of numb self or control self by recoursing to addiction. Absolutely. So again, that part is extremely important for us to pay attention to. So relapse happens as a result of all these co-occurring factors. High stress. We live in a very stressful society, right? The stressors can say, for example, I'm sober. I'm sober for many years. I went through treatment program. I go for the AA meetings and all those things. And then I had a very bad day, very traumatic something that happened. I may take something. I may pick up a drink and do it. It could be interpreted as a slip, or it could just take me to the relapse again. Because once you get back in, then it takes you back in the same old route. Then you have to come back again, go through the treatment programs in some cases. So again, those are part of the struggle. Couples members really, really struggle. Next one, please. You can move it to the next one, Jen. Yes, couple members, the question in couple therapy is about how do they interpret relapse? Couple members, some of them would say, one of the couple members told me that, it was like a kind of betrayal. It is an injury for me. It was kind of, he is not serious about what he's doing. He doesn't care for me. One of my cousins is struggling with that. He's not changing. And then she stayed with him for about so many years. And now she's in her 50s. She says it's done with it. They don't have any children. She says, I cannot live with this. I mean, sometimes couple members make that decision. Again, she thinks of it as an attachment injury. He's not going to change. In some cases, they may not change at all. So then you have to make a decision about those things. Or is it an opportunity? Each relapse is an opportunity to discuss trust and closeness. And like an affair we talked about yesterday, right? Affairs happen, and people disclose, people kind of go through that phase, and people keep it as an opening for conversations. Next one, please. I would, again, what can a clinician do in the case of relapse? Again, I can talk about addiction in all kinds of ways, but because of the time factor, I'm going to just focus on relapse. A clinician can do a bunch of things. One is create an open dialogue around relapse. For example, encourage the couple to engage in an honest conversation about relapse. What happened? What caused you relapse? What were you thinking? I'm hurt by your relapse. Then he can talk about what happened to him. the stress or whatever. Again, not an excuse, because people who are addicted to psychoactive substances, they are famous for their bullshit BS, right? They know how to play the game well and all those kind of, they can come up with bullshit stories and stuff like that. So again, honest conversations are, those conversations are important. A therapist can create that kind of space. And also, sometimes I found that, clients are afraid that if they talk about relapse, clinician will kick them out and they end the therapy. You cannot do this again. So I would say, again, be transparent with the couple from the get-go, from the beginning itself, that they will not be kicked out of therapy if there is a relapse. So please come to me and talk to me honestly about your struggle. What is causing this kind of, what are the factors that contribute to your relapse? Open, non-judgmental space to discuss relapses, to help to remove this. So again, this kind of open conversation also helps them to get off that stigmatic thinking, or stigma and taboo topic. It's nothing. Therapist place, there is no, everything human is welcome in that place, right? If you're a sex pervert, if you're an addict, if you're a crazy person, it doesn't matter. Everything human is acceptable, or must be acceptable in the couple therapy room. So also the partner also has to hear that. Provide ongoing psychoeducation on addiction. Again, psychoeducation can do wonders, whether it can lift the other, kind of distorted information that they may have about that. So education, psychoeducation is important, especially about the relapse, the nature of relapse as part of the addiction. So we can do a lot of work, especially behavioral couple therapy and all this. There's some interesting field to talk about that. I teach addiction treatment programs in our program, so it's kind of pretty fascinating field. And help the couple members develop relapse prevention plans. Again, once they know, say for example, sometimes people, triggers is a huge thing. They may be away from all these substances, but again, they go by a bar, the smell of the bar, the music from the bar, the friends in the bar. Those could be triggers. Once you get into that territory, then you're back into that thing. And again, so once you know those triggers, once your partner knows it, once the therapist knows it, then you can create some relapse prevention plan about that. So, I mean, I can say more about it. I'm going to end it here for 6 minutes before, so that we can have questions. I'm so sorry, people. We didn't get into the depth of addiction.
Yeah, I have a question, Seth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure, Aisha.
Yeah, when you talk about relapse and the therapist's role, and being open and having honest conversations, is the therapist likely to succumb to harm person bias? I read about this.
Harm reduction? Are you talking about harm reduction?
Harmed person bias. I tried to look it up, but I couldn't get any information on it. Wherein the therapist starts being more biased towards the partner who is, addicted or who's engaging in violence. Who's, the victim as such.
Right. That's right. That's a real problem, actually. Again, one of the factors I did not talk about it. This kind of errors therapists make. It's part of the slides. I did not talk about it. Is that this is one of them. If you are going to be in a couple therapy, if I am going to be a couple therapist, I need to have that sort of, neutrality. Neutrality is very difficult to achieve anyway.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to show partiality or bias towards one person, I should also do the same thing to the other one. In other words, I have to be equally accessible to both parties. So that's why, as when you become therapists, or when you are in the process of becoming a therapist, we need to know our biases, our own. We need to do our personal work. Say, for example, I have certain biases about. I have problem with certain groups of people. For example, if a person comes to me, a child molester, a pedophile. For me, I have a lot of reaction. I understand that person, the pedophilia is part of paraphilia, all those factors that I know that at the same time, but again, my own biases, my own issues that I have to deal with. I may not be a good therapist for a pedophile. So if there's a pedophilia, or if one of the, that was an example about the couple. If I have biases towards a person who's an intimate partner, a person a violent person in the relationship, person who, I have problem with that person in that sense. So again, I have done a lot of personal work in those kind of things again. So if I have a therapist notices a certain bias towards one of the members in the system, then that can create a lot of trouble within that couple system, therapeutic system. So I may triangulate without knowing. I may privilege the conversation of that person more. I may take it against. There's sometimes some therapists who are divorced themselves, who are nasty about in their own, who are still upset with their partner if they have not resolved it. When they become couple therapist, any issue that is closer to my experience of the past, I may tend to gravitate towards and supporting that person over the other person, right? So these are therapeutic errors, we call it again. That's why in our field, in your field, supervision is so critical, because during the supervision, these are identified. They are identified, and they work on it. They help the person to get the help that they need. They may need therapy themselves to do. Of course, we always advocate therapy for therapists. All those. Otherwise, it can mess up the system. You can, you as a couple therapist, I can mess up the system.
Yeah, because one of my friends had this problem wherein they had gone to a counselor as a couple, and she felt that the counselor was, taking up more for the husband and, focusing on his issues and just negating what the wife was saying.
That's exactly the reason why, as therapists, we should know, if there is anything that you're not comfortable with me, the way I'm, working with you, if either I'm supporting the other person more than me, please bring it to the table. Don't keep it as a kind of, and go and talk to somebody else. Go and talk to me, because I'm a therapist. I can manage it. I can handle it. You can, yell at me, but I can manage that stuff. I can ground my. So again, we need to get that kind of feedback from the client. So those clients, and also the therapist needs to be aware of this factor also. It's a kind of funny thing. They were dealing with an affair. One of the, I'm on the ethical committee. Sometimes we get into trouble. We have to let go of some therapists. We revoke their license to the state. I'm on the ethical committee. We had a case where the therapist was working with an affair case, and the therapist started having an affair with the person who came for therapy. So I'm saying, and they started meeting outside, therapist and this particular client, while the therapy was going on. And then somebody took a picture of that and sent it to this guy. Hey, your wife is with so and so. Then he found out that it was a therapist himself outside, and it was happening. And I'm saying, we can be blindsided in many ways. We have to be careful, and I wish we could talk more. Hopefully, I'll bring me this question again at some point in the next 2 days.
Okay, thank you.
Rosa, can I take one more extra minute to answer questions in case? Is it?
So sometimes it so happens that one of the couple might feel that you are supporting the other one. Could be because they're not ready to accept that the negatives in them.
Right.
When you're pointing out the negatives, that this is where you're wrong, you should try and change this. So they generally feel that, okay, you're supporting the other partner. You're not supporting me.
Right. Absolutely. They can feel that. And these are perceptions sometimes, right? That's why, that these are important conversations between the therapist and the client in that sense. Sometimes supporting a person who has no voice. I've been speaking in my relationship all the time. Now therapist is, amplifying the feeble voice, the soft voice there. I may say, oh, you're taking her side. No. Again, that's why, I tape most of my sessions. I don't know about your situation, so that, I can show them, no, that's not true, Tom. I spent 20 minutes with her, Lily, and I spent 20 minutes with you. Can you watch this tape and take it back? And again, that's kind of, so sometimes people may have that kind of perception. But again, we can also make a mistake ourselves, right? We can also, the accusation may be true in the cases where Aisha was talking about. It may be the perception of the client. It could be the, reality in some ways. I'm so sorry that we didn't complete. I didn't even touch upon Bowen couple coaching, and I'm hoping that probably I shouldn't get into the details. Anyway, there's so much more, people. This is such kind of packed thing again. Okay, what else?
So sometimes the psychiatrist feels that substance abuse, even if after treatment, we cannot treat them now. But generally, like you said, that there is an underlying depression or there is an underlying personality disorder. So we need
Yeah.
to treat them as well as this, as well as the family members should be involved in it,
Yeah.
because there are certain types of wives who might be a cause for the person's drinking.
Yeah, triggers, right. I mean, there are triggers, could be, you're right, absolutely, totally, yes. That's why when you talk about addiction is always a field of interdisciplinarity, right? Multidisciplinary approach. That's the only way to treat it. And I think otherwise, like, you have to take care of the depression, anxiety, all those co-occurring disorders that we talked about, trauma factors, personality disorders related stuff, family issues, all those things. So experts or people from all over the places need to be part of that particular team. So in the US, they're pretty intact. And even when I was at Christ, I used to go to NIMHANS. We have a lot of the interdisciplinarities, right? The big time there, social work and psychiatrists and all those. So they have to be treated. All these dimensions have to be treated for the process of recovery.
We cannot just say that relapse is there, so we cannot help them. We have looked after them for once, twice. We have put them for de-addiction. We have tried all the methods, and they have again relapsed. We cannot just leave them. We need to look into the core matter and find out what exactly the reason could be.
Absolutely, exactly right. Relapse is a kind of one has to stay engaged. That's why the couple therapists need to make the couple system know that that is relapse is part of that, and relapse prevention plans, all those things have to be in place as they move forward in their life. It's all about manageability, right? Managing that particular issue, disease, or whatever you call it. It's such a complex phenomenon, and there is no end to it. It's It's like a diabetes, right? It has to be managed. There is no recovery from diabetes. There is no recovery from hypertension. These are the realities that we have to live with for the rest of our lives. It's kind of manageability is the key term. For that, multidisciplinary interventions are important. Again, people, I'm so sorry that we did not complete many things. But again, I think we are going into some depth, at least some. I hope it is useful for you. What we are discussing it here is useful. We'll continue to finish. I want to talk about intimate partner violence tomorrow. That's another important factor in the couple therapy.
So can we touch little about internet and cyber addiction?
Absolutely, of course, yeah, I can. If it's okay with the team here. Yeah, cybernet addiction, internet addiction, porn addiction, there's a lot of interesting research coming up. They are not, they're not psychoactive substance like induced issue, but they also create some sort of, changes in the brain. So I think so the reality of that, I can give you an example of, examples are always useful quickly to get into the point. We had a case where cyber sex, and also porn sex in this case. So the partner, I think I mentioned to you about a couple of days ago, also again, the partner so keen on getting into that. And then that became a reality for him. And then the amount of time spent, the amount of energy spent, the amount of time masturbating before they are having sex with your partner, all those things really killed their sexual life in some ways. And also one of the factors is one of the factors that from research that I have been noticing also is that people who are addicted to cyber sex or people who are addicted to porn, they get more gratification. Orgasm comes through that means more than with the real person. So they cannot have the orgasm. So they don't complete the orgasm. They finish the act and then they finish it with the masturbation, looking at the porn. So in other words, the people feel not really it's such a taboo topic for the people to talk about. So the changes that is happening to the person because of this particular addiction, cyber sex and cyber, porn and all those things are really, really problematic. It really challenges the real. So the real sex is real issue. They cannot perform it, but cyber, they can do that. In some cases, they cannot have orgasm with their partner. They have to go to a prostitute to have that. They say that I don't have an erection when I'm with my partner. I am so I'll talk about in sexual dysfunctions next week in the next week, day after tomorrow. They say, but again, when I go to a prostitute, I'm fine. So it is not the physiological issues. It's not sometimes it's psychological in different ways. So again, there are different issues. It's much more complex in that sense. So again, coming back to your question, cyber, yes, that has an impact on people, and that has a lasting impact. That's one of the most destructive things to the couple relationship. Porn and cyber related stuff, it does a lot of damage to the relationships, because the virtual relationship with my relationship with that, what I'm seeing on the screen, is more exciting than the real relationship that I have with my partner. That is usually a topic which is not really discussed a lot. But in couple therapy also deals with sex therapy, right? Again, those are part of that kind of conversations. Indu, did I make any sense to you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Seb is good. Yeah. So thank you, Indu. Thank you, Aisha. Thank you, everyone, Benedict, and all of you who asked, Isha, and everyone who asked questions. Rosa, what do I do?
Yes, Seb. Shall we wind up for today?
Yes, sure. Rosa, I'm so sorry that I didn't. Thanks for your reminder. Please remind me tomorrow. I get into this kind of depth, then I
Yes.
All right,
Yeah.
sure.
With regarding to the request from the participant, I was only thinking like now we'll be dealing with case conceptualization and all in later stage. Can we include these issues as a part of it?
Yes, sure. We can do that. Yeah.
Rather than dealing it separately, so we can cover up the modules we were expected to.
Sure, I can do that. Yeah, I'll do that. Yes. So I can keep it as a part of the conceptualization and the treatment development.
Yeah.
Sure. Yes. But great questions. All these are great questions too from the participants. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, of course.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everyone.
Thank
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Yes.
Thank you. Good night.
Yeah, good night.
Thank you.
Thank you and bye.